Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Thinking Scrubs podcast. I'm your host, Raymond, and with me today is Ian,
Hello, guys.
and we're here to talk about
Points change.
Woo!
Points update.
It's a brand new season, and we have new points, and we want to talk all about it.
There are
So
so many
excited.
changes.
So, Ian, I asked this to Ellie. I'm going to ask you, how did you feel when you saw the points come out?
For my factions, I feel gutted, man.
Really?
Yeah, somehow, because we'll go to it later, but mostly because my favorites were removed from hyperspace. But they're essentially still all playable. But
Yes.
not just for hyperspace.
Yeah, but I don't know. I was never. That's a whole different topic altogether, hyperspace. But I felt overall it was very fair. I mean, it's definitely a new direction that FFG
Definitely.
wants us to take,
Mhm.
and it's kind of exciting now. It's like, it's not like I'll just go with my same old list kind of feels. It's like I have to think now.
Very.
Okay, so let's kick off this discussion with my faction, which are the Rebels. So, just some quick highlights.
Mm-hmm.
Only two cards got a point increase, Braylon and Leia, crew card, and they only got 1 point each, so coolness.
It's about time Leia got a point increase.
What? She already got one, but okay.
Well, I think that's a fair move.
I didn't even think that she was being played that much in the last season, but
Mm-hmm.
I guess there were some. So
A mitigant action from FFG.
apparently everything, if you haven't noticed, everything that affects everyone on the board got a debuff.
Points
or-
adjustment.
Okay. And of course, Braylon, still powerful as ever.
Yes.
And then the 5 X-Wings and 4 E-Wings. I think this, for me, is the biggest highlight ever because these are finally a thing.
Yes. We weren't able to fly the favorite iconic ships together in that much volume, right?
Especially
say
not
X-Wings.
in the Swarm type of list.
Yes, especially. I think that will be interesting when people come up with several lists, and of course, you'll always have more excuse to buy X-wing packs and
Yeah,
starters.
now I need to buy another one because I only have 4. I always said, hey, I only need 4.
Now you have to buy an extra one.
Yes. And next up is the E-Wings. Another great push by FFG to try to push the E-Wings into the meta. Last season, I don't think they were still played as much. Who knows? This might be the season. I'm not
Mhm.
a big E-Wing player myself. But, this actually has got me thinking.
Yeah, I think all of the ships that aren't seen on the table as much will be getting some of the highlights this season.
And of course, honorable mentions. And the attack shuttle got cheaper. K-Wings, Hawk, Fenrao, which one of my faves from last season. Version 1.0. Some Millennium Falcon, Ghost, and some lower initiative X-Wings got some love.
Yes.
But I think the pilot who got the biggest points
Yeah.
adjustment is Mr. Dash Rendar.
Rondar, yes. I think I entered the game when it was a Dash Rendar meta. So I really, really am scared of Dash being back right now.
Well, we'll see. I haven't seen him played much in 2.0, even during when 2.0 came out. Came out.
yes.
There was only just that one list.
Mhm.
One list that everyone played.
But it wasn't as powerful. It didn't actually dictate the meta. So I think right now people will try to explore and exploit Dash having that point adjustment as well.
Yes, that includes me. I am trying so many dashes right now.
Okay.
And then, so what does this mean for the Rebel faction? I just want to share what I think are some impacts. So overall, even though Rebels have a lot of ships, I think that most people would always tend to veer towards your typical X-Wing, Luke Skywalker, Wedge,
Very. Yes.
your B-Wings, of course, and maybe a U-Wing here and there, that kind of feel. So I think right now, suddenly, I mean, it's made me want to look at the other ships, definitely.
Definitely. And of course, there's a list, I think, about the alphabet squadron. I think you can actually complete more of the alphabet right now because of the points adjustments.
Oh yeah, an A-wing, a
Yeah.
B-wing, an X-wing, a U-wing. Does a Z95 count as an alphabet though?
Maybe.
Food for thought. Okay, so once again, I'd like how FFG focused on the ship chassis and the pilot harmony because that's the Rebels thing. You don't need much upgrades,
Mhm.
and you just rely on their harmonious abilities and stuff.
Yes, exactly. They have this symbiotic relationship with each other from other ships, and I think that's the core strength of Rebels. Their ace teamwork, and of course, some ships take the punch and some deal the damage.
And of course, the big ships are going. They're really pushing big ships. I think even in other factions.
Yes.
So, will this be the season for big ships?
I hope so. A lot of ships or the earlier X-Wing 2.0 meta tended to favor multi-ship builds, but with big ships, we hope that it will be a different environment right now.
Yeah, I don't even recall, to be honest, in any prevalent big ship builds except for that fat.
The Fat
Solo.
Han, yes. I mean, Han is already good by himself, and I think there are certain upgrades that made him stand out. But all other big ships are kind of meh in that aspect.
And lastly, I will conclude right now that the Rebels will win at least one system open.
I would probably concur on this hypothesis because the Rebels are the poster boys. They're the poster boys, and
and yet they haven't won a system. Right, in the last season they didn't win anything though.
Well, yes, but they're all around top tier faction this coming points change.
But they're kind of like the true neutral, kind of like always a bridesmaid but never the bride, kind of always there but almost.
We
not
hope
quite.
we hope that with fingers crossed they win a system open or probably a worlds probably.
Someday. So with that, let's try to talk about some lists that I'm excited to see. Will
Can
come
show
out
us a
soon.
couple of lists
Yeah,
that you
sure.
tinkered with. Okay.
So of course, the Flight of Angels, or what I like to call the 5 X-Wing build. So
Yes.
just 5 Cavern Angel Zealots. Put inertial dampeners for the heck of it. Don't use it. Use it. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is that you can fly 5 X-Wings to begin with is already powerful.
I think that's a solid list, especially with all the shields and HP. And I can't discount the maneuverability of an X-Wing, especially if they have extra wingmen right now.
Yeah, I went with the Zealot because a 1-point initiative from 2 to 1 is negligible. If you're going swarm, it's like it doesn't matter. And the inertial dampeners is just like a party trick at this point. We're in like, oh, okay, you stopped. Yeah.
Yes, I think with this, your list remains unpredictable on whether you'll be using the inertial dampeners or not. And I think it'll still be somehow a shield against aces, and you can always make kill boxes with a lot of bodies, especially these X-Wings. No, 1 to 5, the 5 being highest the potential of this list. How much faith do you have in this list?
Ooh, it definitely needs a lot of practice to play. I would say it's a 4 or 3.5. Okay, somewhere there, 3.5 to 4.
Fair guess.
Okay, but I have more confidence in this next list I'm going to show, and it's Dash and Friends.
Ooh, wow, that's a thick Dash Randar. Okay, can you elaborate on it?
Okay, so used to be that if you played this kind of list with Dash, that's automatic easily 2/3 two-thirds of your
Two-thirds of
list.
your list.
But now, I could fit in a Jake Farrell in there and a Thane,
Mhm.
and they're all semi-high initiative. So the trick here is that Dash is, of course, your meat who tries to go in
Mhm.
and he'll punch.
You'll hit like a bus.
Jake Farrell is there to double mod anyone, maybe Dash or maybe Thane, and then Thane is there to expose damage cards that Dash lays down.
I like the symbiotic relationship of Jake here and with Thane working with Dash. I think this is a competitive list looking at it.
Well, haven't tested it out yet, but I'm hoping. So I opted. The people usually put like Perceptive Co-Pilot on Dash, but yeah, it's way too expensive now at 8, and maybe Lando could do the same trick if you're lucky.
Well, the thing is, Trick Shot actually became more expensive, but since it has a good with Dash, it has a good benefit with Dash Rendar. I think it's worth it. It's still worth it.
And especially, I think Dash now is much more powerful in this current season because there's no free obstacles anymore, right? The ion clouds became much more treacherous, and Dash has the ability to
just fly around.
Yeah, and not care about obstacle effects.
Between this and the previous one, which would you prefer?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna play this one.
I see.
Okay, lastly is I like to call Be Prepared because there are a lot of bees in there.
Okay.
So this is utilizing, of course, the new cards that you got in the card pack, which is Gina Moonsong.
Yes, Gina Moonsong.
And the stabilized S-foils. So the trick here is that you have 3 B-Wings who want to be stressed. Well, sorry, they all want to be stressed. Gina Moonsong is the highest initiative and will pass one of her stress tokens to either
to Braylon.
Jake, Ten, Braylon, whoever. They all will clear stress the next turn anyway.
And Braylon still benefits from the stress if he doesn't clear.
Yes. And so what they do is they'll all shoot twice because they have the stabilized S-foils. So
the bonus attack.
Yeah, the bonus attack is gonna be fierce. If one of them is just gets the other ship, an enemy ship, in an off angle, that's a free crit that doesn't get evaded, right? That's how it works. And yeah, so I put Jamming Beam on Gina Moonsong because she's gonna shoot
free.
first.
It's free.
Yes, and she can strip tokens off the target, which Braylon and Ten can now clean up.
You just have to fly on a tight knit formation and predict where the enemy is going to land.
I don't think it's not. It's not that necessary actually, because if you look at Gina Moonsong's ability, it's a bit. They have a bit of range and passing on the stress token, and even if you don't want to pass the stress token, that's also fine because it's a May, I think, if I remember correctly. So you could not, but I think the goal is trying to form a kill box of loosely flying B-Wings.
And it's not easy to take this list down. I can see it being a flying fortress of by itself, and I think it's a good list to try out also.
Yes, and if you notice, like, Jake is in most of my list because let's face it, he's the cheapest support chip out there.
Yes, and he's actually not to be trifled with because you just can't ignore Jake. You have to deal with him eventually still.
Let's move on to the Empire. So, Ian.
Here, the Empire has a lot of cards, and I think they are one of the factions that had the most changes. But good to say that only 5 out of those 94 cards increased in points. But you have to notice that those are the iconic ones. The Howl Runner, Aiden Versio, Captain Jonas, Colonel Jendon. Those are some of the core choices of ships, but I'm still happy to say that only 5 out of the 94 increased. While a lot of the points changes were towards the decreasing of points here, and the mid-tier pilots, aces and generics, they were the ones that got somehow buffed, and the swarm became more viable because you're now able to put more bodies on a swarm. And this is the fourth point is actually just consideration if you're going to play the hyperspace format. A lot of the choices that you used to pick are removed from that format, so you might want to consider that.
Fair enough, but I would say that's true for all factions, though. Okay, so moving on. These are I think these are the 5 ships, five cards we were talking about.
Yes, these are the 5 cards, and I'm not going to dwell on that, but those are some of good choices. I think Howl Runner being a core choice for swarms, and Iden Versio, but still it's not that much of a nerf, and you can still play around with these, especially with the TIE variants getting a lot of points reduced.
Yeah, it's just really like a safety net that you don't abuse the Howl Runner ability. Besides that, everyone just click at 1 to 2. That's negligible, I guess.
I think this still stems from the fact that the TIE fighter or the TIE line fighter is always the least moved points from FFG. I think they used it as a basis also from migrating X-Wing 1 to X-Wing 2.0.
Fair enough. So if the TIE fighter moves, everyone else has to move. Okay, so let's move on now to what this changes mean to the Empire faction.
So these changes are not entirely going to happen, but I think these will be the ones that will be majorly affected. So the first one is Unused Ships seems to be more meta viable. Usually,
like which ones though?
Right now I'm looking at the TIE Advance here. Not exactly. When we say TIE Advance, we don't usually see other TIE Advances being played other than Vader. Right now, there are several viable options, especially for the lower initiative ones. Also, the Interceptor. When we say Interceptor, we only think of Suntir Fel, and we don't choose. Usually lists don't include anyone else. But here, they actually gave a lot of points reduction to these pilots, and a lot of these are playable right now. Right now, I can see myself toying with these lists, and especially with the huge selection of ships from the Empire, we'll have very different lists from Empire.
Yes, Ian, to be straight with you, I cannot name a single Interceptor pilot besides Sundir Fel.
Yeah, that's just weird, and I think it's a good push from FFG that okay, Suntir Fel already had enough of the spotlight. It's time for someone else to get the limelight.
Although I think there are a lot of ships in the Empire faction that don't get played. Well, if you recall, the TIE Aggressor is one of the famous ships.
Yes. That actually the TIE Aggressor had all of their pilots' points reduced, but it's not the expected point reduction they got. So maybe they'll get some testing, but probably not as meta viable still. But still, I'm not judging, but you can play around with it, and there are several aspects that we should still consider.
Go on down the list.
Here, Empire Core choices is disrupted. Here, this is mainly focusing on the hyperspace format. I'm not sure if a lot of people actually play that, but it's a requirement for certain tournaments, right? So
Yes.
if you're going to consider that, Empire, you will really have to think out of the box right now. Look at other ships, look at other pilots, and consider different upgrades when you're building Empire list right now. So that's just probably a good thing also. And if you're more of a status quo kind of guy, you'll probably be a little bothered by this. And that goes with the third point also. FFG nulled some ships for the faction here. Um, Not exactly non-playable, no super duper nerf, but you just have to stay away from the mainstream core choices here. But the good thing is here fourth the fourth is swarms are empowered. What I'm saying here is that even though Aiden Versio and Howl Runner got a lot of points increase, the Tile Line Fighter Academy Pilot got a point reduction, and you can now fly a lot of Tile Line Fighters. I think we'll have to show the list later, and it goes with other ships also. For that, it will be tedious to fly, but it's still fun. I think I'll have use for my tie lines now.
Okay, fair enough. But you have more than 8, so you'll never have use for all of them though. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Still, I can lend it to someone if you want to play with me.
Speaking of swarms for the Empire, actually, I was looking at it earlier, and I was like thinking, what's the Empire equivalent of like an alphabet squadron?
We're not.
Because when we fly ties, it's always just usually all ties, right?
Yeah.
But Empire's not. Do they not like to mix and match kind of thing?
I haven't tried any mix and matches yet, but the one list I can remember is the TIE Advance with Vader, TIE Interceptor with Soontir, and the TIE V1 with the Grand Inquisitor. That's the only list I can remember with several TIEs in it. Hopefully we'll see changes and push away from all those stereotypes and get rid of that.
And I guess that would lead into your last point.
Mm-hmm. And that the Empire will have to really rack our brains out to see which ship will shine this season. And I'm seeing a lot of potentials. I'm seeing possible combinations that might work, although Empire ships don't usually interact well with each other, but hoping with all the combinations of each ship, they will be greater than the synthesis of everyone.
Yeah, that's the reason why I brought it up, because when I was looking through the Empire ship list and all the reductions, I was like thinking, hey, I could like fit 3 ties, and hey, I could even put in a bomber in there, but yeah, mostly all generics, but still, that's a lot of different types of our specific purpose. Like some will use them just for torpedoing, the ties will be my blockers, and it's just so many possible combinations.
Extra bodies are very good, especially with ties. You have an extra green die, and I think it'll somehow affect the shipbuilding landscape that we have.
Okay, so let's move on to some lists.
And we'll
so
go
what you
to
got for me?
the first list that you have to watch out for is this. I think this here Aiden Versio is probably optional. You can swap it out with Howl Runner if you're going to move it away. But here you can see that there's simply a lot of bodies here, and I don't think a net this thick or this spread out can't catch an ace with a lot of these ships. You're basically occupying 1/4 of the map every time you fly around with these. So and I assure you, someone will fly these eventually, despite it being tedious and requiring a lot of mental fortitude to fly it.
Yeah, I think if I were going to play against this, I always just like one forward, because my best bet is just to run out time, because by the time you move 3 turns, we'll be done.
Yeah.
The whole game is done.
Yeah, I think although FFG really did try to help people fly Swarm, they essentially built templates, and probably when you play Epic, you consider this flying patterns with the new templates. But in the proper X-Wing play, you can't use that. So you have to take your time. You really have to master each and every one of these ships, and you have to be careful in placing them also, especially when you when you commit a mistake, you'll probably be causing more distractions and bumps that won't be helpful to you.
Fair enough. I mean, there is a certain quality in Swarm players that you have to master. That knowing predictions of 8 ships as compared to 3.
That's a challenge that you have to take. We all Empire players have to deal with at some point. But yes, this list, I'm not sure on how viable it is, but I might try it for a game or two. It will take a lot of time, but it will be fun.
Yep. Okay, so let's move on to our next list. And this is
This
Darth
is one
Vader,
of the...
Merrick Steel, and Lieutenant Sai.
Yes. Here I'm catching on the viability of an extra TIE advance to swap out with Suntirfel. With Suntirfel actually being a super ace, I think Merrick Steel can somehow substitute or fill in the shoes of Suntirfel here. The basic idea is everyone gets to perform several actions because of Lieutenant Sai. When Sai performs a coordinate, and with the Perceptive co-pilot, they also get double mods. Especially Vader also gets an extra action, and Merrick Steel, if somehow the Vader pushes a damage, Merrick can select a critical and push more distractions to the list of the other guy.
This is an interesting list. It's a play on the typical Vader, Suntir, and Shuttle list. But I think because Merrick's cheaper, we're able to put more cool stuff on him.
I'm hoping that the outmaneuver can reduce or push more damage and reduce green dice, allowing you to select more criticals that will be appropriate for the damage of the other ship. I think criticals are somehow nerfed in this X-Wing 2.0, but somehow they still spell out the difference in the game.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you, but in version 1.0, we didn't see that much chain crits. But in 2.0, like, you could kill a... Remember that time I killed your shuttle?
Yeah. That's a very terrible. The direct hit and the hull breach,
everything.
Yeah.
Still, it's a different take and requires some testing and tinkering around.
Fair enough. And who knows? Maybe you distract your enemy and hey, wasn't that Vader? No, that's Merrick. Oh, nuts.
Oh yeah, distraction.
Okay, so moving on to the next list. Here we have Rexler Brath and Captain Oiken?
Yes.
Okay.
Here, this is an extreme take on the list. With the previously mentioned big ships being a highlight in this points change, I opted to select the Decimator. It doesn't see much play. It's not a famous ship, but here Oiken actually allows you to shoot at range 0. So your goal is to bump as much as you can so that you can mitigate a lot of damage, but you'll also be dishing a lot more damage if you're bumping. And you'll actually be able to do that because you're a large base and you have Intimidation, you have Dauntless, you have the innate ability of Pikun, and all of those just combined to a solid big ship. Not as good as the Falcon, but it has its own flavor.
Well, compared to that list, you have 2 aces because Rexler Brath is, pretty powerful on his own. And
here, Rexler Brath will probably just fly around back and forth with Oikun dealing out most of the damage. And essentially this list is on a timer because decimators don't actually last that long on a game. They're usually one of the first ships to blow up. That's why you have Minister Tua to uh, slow down that timer, and you hope that you can deal enough damage before the timer goes out.
So who's going to be jumping in first here? It's the
It's
decimator.
definitely Oikun. Yeah, you have to bump. That's your goal. You have to bump a lot of ships, or you have to make them bumpy because you can still shoot them at frame zero.
Oiken's initiative.
Actually has a lower initiative.
So that really gives you the opportunity to move first and then potentially bump aces.
And you move your turret also.
Well, that's a very interesting list. I hope you bring it to the games.
I'll try to play around with it. I haven't flown a defender before, a TIE defender before. It's quite a tricky list, and I'm scared of its dial. It has a very peculiar dial, but
Yeah.
but we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. So, with that, I guess that concludes our highlights for the Rebel and the Galactic Empire.
hmm And
And
I think all very interesting lists. Very good to test it out.
yes, and as we mentioned earlier, it's like the wild, wild west out there for X-Wing. Like anything
Yeah.
can happen.
Very.
So, before we go, Ian, you want to give anyone a shout out?
No one particularly, but I do want to encourage everyone to check out our event for February 1.
Yes, the
Okay.
Rise of the Aces.
The Rise of the Aces. Yes. So do check out the details, and hopefully we get more new players to inject new blood in. It's a good time to join the game.
Oh, just to add to that, new players get $100 off their entrance fee.
Yay!
And we'll be giving away some old stuff. But
I
you
have
know,
I have extra templates to give also. I haven't.
Yeah,
used
so-
it yet.
So yeah, basically those stuff. So if we reach 20 people, we'll have how many ships to give away? Like one per faction, and then
Yes.
a squadron pack. So
A lot.
wow,
A lot.
That's a lot. That's on top of the stuff that we're already giving away.
So do join. And do you have any shout outs or?
Oh, just to our regular listeners, thank you for listening. And if
Thank
you like
you.
our content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out as a channel. And hopefully we'll push out another one of these videos by the end of this week.
Yes.
And so that concludes our channel. Once again, I'm your host Raymond, and here's Ian. And we're the Thinking Scrubs. Toodles.
Bye.
Bye.